and the time is 6 p.m. We will begin our meeting, as we do all of our meetings, with an invocation this evening to be offered by Pastor Rob. What's that? Rod Grubb. Is that correct? Thank you so much for being here, Mr. Grubb. So if everyone would please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's start off with a short section of scripture, a couple of verses out of 1 Timothy chapter 2, starting in verse. Paul, then, I urge that all entreaties and prayers, petitions, and thanks all men, for kings, all who are in authority, quiet life in godliness and dignity.
This is the good and acceptable in the sight of our God and Maker. Sorry.
We'll get it right away.
We could do that.
All right, you happy? Okay, good. All right, let's go to the Lord in prayer. Lord, I lift up our mayor, members of the city council, gathered neighbors tonight for wisdom, integrity of purpose, and humility in the presence of our living God. May you, O Lord, guide our elected officials to righteousness, those that achieve the best for the citizens of our country. O Lord, be glorified in all that is said and accomplished this evening. Also, please protect and bless our mayor and the members here, and our blessed name of our Savior, Jesus Christ, we pray.
Amen. Thank you so much.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you again, Mr. Grubb, for being here, and we do apologize for those technical difficulties in regards to the microphone. So we persevered, so well done. Thank you so much. Madam Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Alden.
Here.
Williams.
Here.
Doty.
Here.
Stoddard.
Here.
Register. Here. McGee.
Here. Very good. All city council members are present and accounted for. Are there any conflict of interest declarations from any members of the council regarding any item on the agenda this evening? Okay. We do not have any special presentations. Do we have? Oh, she's going after the sheet to see. Nope. And we do not have anybody signed up for audience participation, so that moves us into the consent calendar. And we do have some amendments.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Amendments to the agenda. Removal of consent item number 11 as requested by staff. Move consent calendar item number 12 to new business as 11A, ordinance number 3509. Move consent calendar item number 13 to new business as 11B, ordinance 3510, and continue the item to the next regularly scheduled city council meeting to be held on June 20th, 2023. Move consent calendar item 14 to new business as 11C, ordinance number 3511. And move consent calendar item number 5 to new business as 11D for future discussion.
Very good. So we have a motion to amend the agenda as noted. Do we have a second? So we have a second from Councilor McGee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. So now we do have the consent calendar as amended before us for a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Doty.
I make a motion that we approve the consent calendar with the agenda amendments that I previously mentioned.
Very good. We have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Stoddard to approve the consent calendar as amended. Madam Clerk, please call, yes, if you please call the roll.
Doty.
Yes.
Stoddard.
Yes.
Register.
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
Alden.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Very good. That motion passes. You were worried we were going to be here all night. We just got through 18 items right there. So, okay, very good. So that moves us on to new, there is no old business. I'd just like to note that, and that does move us into new business items for this evening. So our first item, action item under new business, is a time extension request. So this is case number TE 23-5. Again, I'll just note real quick because there are a lot of zeros there on continuing. You do not need to state all those zeros, so in the future, you won't see those very soon, if I'm not mistaken. So this is, again, a request from Iron Oak Homes on behalf of Spencer Sneed, requesting a preliminary plat time extension for 24 months for Covington Square preliminary plat. Mr. Jones, time is yours.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. I don't have a presentation for this. It's relatively simple. The development was originally approved in 2019. They got a 18-month administrative renewal and time extension back in 2021. And their civil plans were approved on September 26, 2022. The applicant is requesting a 24-month time extension of the Covington Square subdivision preliminary plat to address concerns from adjacent property owners and to create legal documentation for easements. And I stand for questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jones. Are there any questions from the council for staff? Okay. And do we have any?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
I
Councilor
do
Alden.
have a quick question.
Yes.
Alex, is the 24-month, is that a standard extension, or is the 18th a standard? Are we exceeding the 18 that we normally do, or can you kind of give me what the norm is, if there is one?
So the 24-month is standard for council approval.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Okay, and we do not have anybody signed up in regards to this item, so I stand for a motion to close the public testimony portion of this hearing.
So moved.
So I have a motion from Councilor McGee, a second from Councilor Stoddard to close the public testimony portion of this hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. So that moves us into deliberation and any motions in regards to this time extension. Again, this time extension for 24 months for Covington Square subdivision.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor McGee.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the extension be approved for case number TE 23-5.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion from Councilor McGee and a second from Councilor Stoddard for approval of case number TE 23-5, time extension for Covington Square subdivision. Can we do a voice vote on this? All those in favor, is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. And that moves us on to action item number 2. This is a request for an annexation, comp plan map amendment, zoning and subdivision. Got a bunch of them in there, so.
It says they're asking for.
Motion to close the public.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. Thank you so much. So now we are on to action item number 2, and this is, again, request for annexation and subdivision for Midland Meadows. On behalf of Parkland Development to annex approximately 40 acres with a proposed split zoning designation of R1 low density residential and R2 medium density residential, and a request for a rezone of approximately, it doesn't say, there's 17-ish acres on that, so we'll let staff give their presentation.
Mayor,
Yes.
if I may, staff is actually requesting a continuance
Oh,
of this item, to the July 5th, 2023 City Council meeting. This is to allow time for the applicant to submit a revised traffic impact study to ITD for their review.
very good. So, excuse me, I should have looked down at the bottom before I started reading all that. So, we do have a request to continue this item. This would be to a time and date certain, July 5th, 2023. Hopefully everybody's recovered from the 4th of July festivities the day before, or a long night that night. So do I stand for a motion to move that item to July 5th?
So moved.
So we have a motion from Councilor Allgood, a second from Councilor Register, again, this is to move up new business action item number 2, to date certain of July 5th, 2023. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. So that would also move action item number 3 and number 4 as well, since those are related to that same evening, July 5th, 2023. So that moves us to action item number 5, and there's no continuation here, correct? Okay, very good. So this is case number PUD 22-9 and sub 22-37 for Silver Meadows. Request by Carl Anderson, for approval of a planned unit development and preliminary plat for Silver Meadows mixed-use residential subdivision. And Katie, looks like this is you, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, the time is yours.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Katie Wright, Associate Planner, 621 Cleveland Boulevard. Before you is Silver Meadows, PUD 22000009 and SUB 22000037. And there are 3 late exhibits that have been presented to you. After the final report was completed, these include elevations of the apartment building and then an updated landscape plan. The project is 28.07 acre site located north of Ustick Road and south of the Wilson Drain. The applicant's proposing parcels R35829 and R35825 stay zoned R2, with the proposed development being a mixed-use planned unit development. These are photos of the site. They currently do have a code violation for this site due to noxious weeds and refuse accumulation. The applicant is aware of this, and discussion earlier today happened after code enforcement went back out to the site around 3 p.m. They reported that there are some weeds still around the perimeter of the site, but up along the road, they did get rid of those. And there also is a camper still on there that she's unaware of if anyone is living in there currently. And the applicant should be able to touch on this a little bit more. "71 single-family homes, 61 townhomes, 120-unit apartment complex, and a public community center, along with a playground, pickleball court, Energy Star housing, and EV parking for amenities will all be included in this project. A traffic impact study was performed and reviewed by the City of Caldwell Engineering Department. The code requires 10% open space, and they're providing 10.3%, equaling about 2.88 acres of qualifying open space. They've provided an updated landscape plan that addresses the berm along Ustick. They are not in compliance with the pathway ordinances, which they're requesting a waiver for. These are the elevations for the apartment complex. And then, did I skip it? Oh, there we go. These are the renderings for the single-family home, the community center, the townhomes, and then the multifamily. And then also the elevations that you've been provided, as well as your late exhibit. The proposed development is surrounded by C3 to the north, R2 to the south, C2, C3, and county to the east, and R2 and county to the west. These are the developments that have been recently approved within the area. The site is where the Star is located. The comp plan designation is medium-density residential, and that is consistent with the intent of the comprehensive plan, and the proposed densities are compliant with the comprehensive plan due to the increase from the mixed-use component. Utilities are or will be provided to serve the proposed site and are or will be adequate to accommodate the proposed development. Public agencies were notified and asked to provide comments. The only agencies that had concerns, the Bureau of Reclamation sent an email to the applicant addressing a final encroachment agreement being put into place for that pathway that they'll be providing up to the north that will be right along the drain. These are the waivers that they're requesting. Waiver for 6,000 square foot lot size minimum to allow for a minimum of 1,628 square feet. A waiver for 45-foot lot frontage minimum to allow for lot frontages from 23.75 feet to 50 feet. Waiver for 0-foot side setbacks for townhome lots. Waiver for the height of the multifamily buildings being over 35 feet, which I believe are going to be 38 feet. Waiver to reduce the required parking for the public community center to 0 parking spaces and to utilize the provided multifamily parking. waiver to reduce the landscaping around, the 8-foot pathway along Wilson Drain from 5 feet on each side to 2 feet on the internal side of the pathway. Here are the added conditions after review. This list also includes the waivers listed in the previous slide. The clubhouse must be accessible to the public at all times due to it being considered a commercial use. The applicant shall submit a copy of the signed encroachment agreement prior to the construction drawings being approved. The applicant must show the location of trash receptacles as well as the method of screening prior to construction drawings. The applicant shall comply with all landscaping requirements based on the Caldwell City Code, Chapter 10, Article 7. This includes correct materials for pathway landscaping and stormwater area landscaping. Parking lot landscaping is required and shall comply with the Caldwell City Code. Provide fencing along the north side of the pathway along the Wilson Drain to be consistent with the 2040 Bike and Pedestrian Master Plan. An updated, these were all from the last one as well. These ones have been met. As I mentioned, the landscape plan has been resubmitted to show these, as well as the new berm. But these were what the hearing examiner did approve previously. And then the hearing examiner recommended approval for the conditions provided in findings, facts, and conclusions of law. And then staff finds the proposed request is in compliance with Caldwell City Codes and is in conformance with the comprehensive plan, aligns with 8 goals and 8 policies. And staff recommends that if council approves the request, that such request is subject to the conditions as specified in the findings of facts, conclusions of law, and order of decision. And I stand for questions.
Thank you so much, appreciate that. Any questions at this time from council or
I have a
staff?
question.
Yes, Councilor Register.
So I really appreciate you doing the slide where it shows what's building around there. Can we go back to that real quick? And then is there a way to bring up a Google map of kind of where this is as well? So the star is where they're talking about doing it, and we have that very large apartment building at Indiana and Ustick, and then to the west of there were more apartments. And that was kind of where I wanted to look at that Google map that are already there, right? Looks like, and then we've got the single family with the townhomes. So, and none of those are built yet, right? On your map, on your slide?
Mayor and council, those are all the ones that will be built. They have not been built yet, or they have started certain phases, but they're not complete.
So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 8 projects if this one's included on Ustick. And then I had a question. Do you know why they're not wanting to do the pathway?
Mayor and council, they are doing the pathway. They're just asking for a waiver to reduce. So in the code, it requires 5 feet of landscaping on both sides of the pathway with specific materials. And since they're going to be along that drain in the easement of the canal, they want to be doing 2 feet on just the interior side and waiving the total of the 5 feet on the other side.
Okay, well, I had some concerns about their other waivers, but I think I'll wait for the presentation and discussion.
Thank you so much. Any other questions from council at this time for staff? Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. So we have 3 people signed up to testify on this item, all 3 in favor. So first person signed up is Jesse Christensen. Very good. Are you wanting to go first, or?
Yes, please.
Okay, very good. So if you don't mind, just come forward, state your name and your address, and then you'll have 10 minutes, up to 10 minutes for your testimony. We'll let you know when you have 1 minute left, and just ask you to do please respect the time limit.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Connor Gray, 1911 Blaine Street, Caldwell, Idaho. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and distinguished council members. My name is Connor Gray, and I'm with AG Land and Development. I'm assisting Carl Anderson in the project management of Silver Meadows on behalf of Rental Properties LLC. I am delighted to be able to present the Silver Meadows project tonight, where we are seeking approval for a planned unit development along with a preliminary plat. First, I just want to take a minute to be able to thank the city staff for all the hard work that they've put into this project. As I believe someone has mentioned before, we began the Silver Meadows planning and the project in late 2021. We have worked with numerous, thank you so much. We have worked with numerous planners and directors on this project, which has come with its own obstacles. However, when Katie and Director Robbins stepped in earlier this year, they have done an exceptional job on tackling these projects while putting Caldwell citizens first. We cannot express our gratitude enough on their professionalism and dedication to building a better Caldwell. All right, let's begin. Oops. Can I control that from up here? Okay, no worries. Oh, there we go. All right, so as Kitty mentioned, the property is located at 3307 East Ustick Road. Silver Meadows spans over 2 parcels totaling 28.07 acres. Currently, there's a 5-acre single-family home that occupies 1 parcel, while the second larger parcel was previously used for agriculture. However, it has been vacant ground for a number of years now. As you can see on the map, it borders the Palisade subdivision to its west, the Solstice subdivision to the south, that was just approved with an R2 medium-density residential along with a PUD, and developed service commercial and light industrial to the east. Our project aligns with Caldwell's future land use plan for medium-density residential designations, adhering to the goals and objectives outlined in the City of Caldwell Comprehensive Plan. This ensures that our development contributes to long-term vision for community growth while also preserving the local character and heritage of Caldwell. We intend to retain the existing R2 residential and medium residential zoning for Silver Meadows. It was important for us to share the same vision as the city staff when they first introduced the current zoning comprehensive plan. Incorporating a PUD will allow us, enable our development to harmonize with the bordering high-density subdivision to the west and the PUD subdivision to the south, while also providing a smooth transition from the commercial areas to the east. Oops. Silver Meadows is an all-inclusive single-phase development project that encompasses a range of housing options. We have worked hard to offer several different options with single-family lots, townhouse lots, and 4 multifamily apartment buildings. We believe that the diversity is key, not only in providing for various lifestyle preferences, but also addressing a wide range of affordability needs. That's why we have a carefully planned community that is flexible, responsive, and inclusive. In addition, we have included a vibrant, multifunctional clubhouse within our community plan that serves dual roles. It provides a shared space for the residents of Silver Meadows and extends its utility to the broader public as well. At the end of the day, we want Silver Meadows to be a place where everyone feels at home, from families just starting out, young professionals moving into the area, and all the way to active seniors. We saw a need for Caldwell for housing that's both affordable and high quality, and that's where we're striving to provide. Our landscape plan allocates 2.88 acres of qualified open space for the community. This open space features a community park, play areas, micro and major pathways, and buffers between differing land uses, promoting a sense of belonging, well-being, and environmental stewardship among residents. And then that is some of the plat data for that. Oops. Proposed density of 9.2 units per acre promotes efficient and comfortable living in the growing area of Caldwell. It falls well below the maximum threshold for mixed-use R2 density PUD, ensuring that residents enjoy a high-quality lifestyle while also preserving open spaces and, most importantly, reducing urban sprawl with its unique location in between already existing developments. Here are a few renderings of our single-family homes that Silver Meadows will offer. Again, these homes are designed to enhance the overall aesthetic appeal of the community and contribute to a strong sense of pride among residents. Our development also includes townhouse lots with 4 different elevations, providing a visually appealing and cohesive community aesthetic. These townhomes offer an attractive and affordable housing option for those seeking a low-maintenance lifestyle without compromising on quality or design. In addition to single-family homes and townhomes, Silver Meadows also offers 4 multifamily apartment buildings, further increasing the variety of housing options within the community. These apartments cater to the residents seeking a more compact living arrangement while still enjoying the benefits of a well-planned and vibrant neighborhood. The Silver Meadows project is committed to enhancing residents' quality of life by offering a diverse array of amenities. Among these are paved pathways connecting residential areas to non-residential zones, major paved pathways and landscape buffers, a playground, a dog park, Energy Star certified housing, and a spacious community park for outdoor activities. This project also includes EV charging stations and pickleball courts. I think we might. A key feature of Silver Meadows is the versatile clubhouse, which serves as commercial mixed-use aspect of our development. The clubhouse is designed to cater both to the residents of the community and the general public. In addition to its other functions, the clubhouse at Silver Meadows will also include a well-equipped gym for the residents. The gym will provide a convenient option for residents to engage in fitness activities. The facility also offers leasable office spaces, making an ideal location for professionals seeking a convenient workspace within the community. Additionally, the clubhouse is also available for public rent, accommodating various events such as gatherings, business meetings, and celebrations. This inclusive hub creates a welcoming environment for all users and ensures that Silver Meadows remains a vibrant and dynamic place to live and work. We understand that the traffic management is a vital concern for the residents of Caldwell. Our development plan has been designed to ensure minimal impact on the local traffic conditions. In response to some of the traffic concerns, we will be building a full half arterial section along Ustick with a center turn lane and a right-hand turn lane into Silver Meadows. This closely aligns with the Solstice subdivision improvements to the south of the property that they will be doing as well. Acknowledging some of the potential concerns about the traffic along Ustick Road due to the upcoming developments, it's vital to understand that our traffic impact study indicates that only 15% of the total traffic from the Silver Meadows is expected on the west side of the property, where much of the development is slated. Conversely, the majority, 85%, will be utilizing east of Ustick Road and the Cleveland Boulevard. To further alleviate any potential congestion on Ustick Road, we're implementing a second route to connect to 41st Avenue just north on the property. This additional route is expected to significantly reduce potential congestion and facilitate a smoother traffic flow. We remain committed to ensure Silver Meadows integrates seamlessly with Caldwell's existing transportation infrastructure while promoting a positive living experience. Throughout the planning process, we have been mindful of the need to preserve the character and integrity of Caldwell, while also promoting sustainable growth. By offering a range of housing options, thoughtfully designed landscapes, and accessible amenities, we have strived to create a development that complements and enhances the existing community. Thank you for your time tonight, and I will stand for any questions, and if I'm unable to answer any of them, we have our engineering team here as well with us tonight to assist with what I cannot. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jesse. Appreciate that. Any questions from council?
Mr. Mayor,
Council Register.
I have some questions. Was this Caldwell School District?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and then what's the size of the clubhouse?
It is 3,000 square feet.
Okay, and then, there was something about the parking in there. How many parking spots do you have for your total units that they?
So we have, within that, where the clubhouse is located within the multifamily area, we have 188. We were required to do 180 for the multifamily because we switched over because of originally how the clubhouse was being interpreted as commercial rather than as a residential amenity. We would have needed to provide additional 15. However, we were only able to provide 8 at the time.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Councilor Allgood.
Got a bunch.
Yes.
Following up on Councilor Register, so all of the single families have off-street parking?
Yes, sir. Yep, they have two car garages and driveways.
Okay. So, is your group going to bridge the drain and make that connection to 41st? Is that part of your obligation?
Yes, it is.
And do you have the, permit from the approval of the irrigation company to do that? I mean, is that done?
I might have to defer that question to, our engineering team, when he comes up to talk. I'm sure he'd be happy to answer that.
And then the last question I have, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go right ahead.
Have you got this planned in phases? Is this going to be done at once, or is this going to be a phase situation?
Our plan is to do this in one phase, within a lot of time of 3 years, because we want to be able to, with the scale of cost of economy, we think it would be a better idea to have all of elevations go up at once while we're trying to connect 41st Street.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, any council members?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Doty?
So it sounds like you were short a few parking spaces, is that correct?
Yes, council member.
7 or 8?
Yes, council member.
And if it's gonna be open to the public, once those fill up, where is everyone going to park? Because how many, I got your numbers there, but it sounds like there's some off-street parking for some. So those that don't have off-street parking, how many parking spaces per unit do you have?
We have met all of the, as far as with the residential parking spaces that are required. The multifamily, was required 180, and so we do have 180 for that. And that just allocated the 8 towards the commercial aspect.
Right, how many per unit is that?
I believe it's 1.5 on that.
Mayor, council member, it is 1.5 for the 180.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Any other council members with any questions? Okay, very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, we do have 2 others that have signed up, indicating to testify. Mr. Carl Anderson, if you want to come forward.
I'll decline.
Okay, very good. Just stating that you are in favor of this request. Okay. And then Connor Gray.
Mr. Mayor, I'm
Oh,
sorry,
yes.
and is he a resident or associated with the property in favor?
Carl Anderson.
Or does it matter?
So what is your affiliation with the project is the question?
I'm one of the project managers
Okay.
Okay.
on the project.
Thank
Very
you.
good. One of the project managers. So Carl is from Caldwell. So,
Long time.
yes, it's good to see you, Carl. Connor Gray, do you wish to come forward and?
Yeah.
Oh.
We're gonna correct something that made up there, I apologize.
That's all right. So if you want to state your name and then your address for the record.
I
And,
am Jesse Christensen, 2151
Oh, you're
West
Jesse
Willow
Christensen.
Point, Nampa, Idaho. I'm out of Nampa. I'm the engineer on this project, so I can stand for questions and I can talk a little bit about what we've done and why we've done it if you have any questions about it. So,
If you don't mind,
Yeah.
maybe just kind of address, because I know the question came up about that 41st Avenue connection.
the crossing is not permitted yet. No, but we have been in touch with the DOR and Pioneer Irrigation District about the crossing. So we have not done the construction documents to get reviewed and completed as of yet.
Okay. Very good.
So,
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilor Elgin.
can you, speak to some of the waivers? You guys kind of got a long laundry list of waivers. Can you speak to some of those for us?
I think Connor would be best to speak to the waivers. He did most of those. I can talk about the pathway waiver and the 10 feet and the 12 feet, or the 10 feet and 2 feet thing instead of the 5 additional feet for the pathway along the ditch. That's the one I've been most involved with, if you have questions about that. That one, there's a 55-foot wide irrigation easement there for the drain. We were in contact with the BOR. They will allow the pathway as long as we are allowing Pioneer Irrigation District enough room to get their track hoe through there to clean out the drain as they needed it. When we met with Pioneer Irrigation District on site, they require about 25 feet for their track hoe. That's what they'd like to see, but they have a fair bit of repair they need to do on the side of the bank to get some of that back because it is so eroded and washed away on that side. So they're going to be doing some repair in there. We're still being able to put the pathway in. They believe putting 10 feet of pathway in there will still allow them their 25 feet for access to clean. So that's why we've asked for that waiver there.
Yeah, follow up.
So the pathway will be 10 feet wide or 5 feet wide?
The pathway is 8 feet wide with 2 feet of landscape strip on one side of it. And on a fence.
And so, and the 2 feet of landscape will just be on one side, not
Just
on
on one
both
side right now, yes.
That side being the side closest to the neighborhood?
Yes.
And then the 0 setbacks for the townhomes?
Just 0 setbacks for the internal setback for the townhomes. They're all together. The normal, I don't know if the standard setback is there for the external of the townhomes. It's just the 0 lot line for the standard townhome build.
So that would be because the lot line goes through the middle.
Right through the middle of
structure.
the house, of the structure, yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, very
All right.
good. Thank
Very
you so
good.
much. Appreciate that. Jesse?
Yes.
Connor?
Connor.
Okay, you threw me off a little bit, so we got it now, so. Okay, so that is actually all that is signed up, to testify on this. We do not have anybody signed up in neutral or in opposition. So before we do close the public testimony portion of this hearing, just want to make sure the council has any more questions for any of the three gentlemen that are here before we close that public testimony portion.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, please.
Yes,
And,
Councilor Worthington.
and Connor, you may be best for this. I'm sorry, I wasn't, thinking when you were up here, but can you speak to me about the apartments and the townhomes, square footage? How big are the apartments? I heard you say attainable housing, and we need more of it. And so I'm very intrigued and interested in this especially. So speak to me a little bit about those, please.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Councilmember. As far as the exact square footage on the apartment buildings, I do not have those numbers on top of my head. However, they're just as kind of a reference of what they will be. They'll be 10 units per building, or 10 units per level with 3 levels on them. As far as the townhomes, we really wanted to be able to reach here with Caldwell is try to capture that ground for, again, younger professionals coming in, first starting families, and also even with the townhomes of more senior citizens coming in to be able to provide them a more affordable option. And the affordable option is mostly on the kind of the scale of we're looking around the 350, 400 type of range. And so as far as the square footage, I don't have an exact number on that, but it's in the ballpark of around 3-bedroom type of housing options for that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, if I could then. So the apartments are 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, the townhomes are 3-bedroom, or do you know what the amenities would be?
I do not have the exact number on that, but they will likely be closer to the 2-bedroom on that aspect of the apartment buildings.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Good. Yes, Councilor Allgood.
Councilor Williams reminded me of something I meant to ask and forgot. So, if you're familiar with this council, we're very careful of building tall buildings next to neighborhoods. And so one of your waivers was, exceeding the 35-foot height limit. You gave us a map, and we have a map in the packet, but the fine print is so small, even with glasses, I can't read it. Can you kind of
Yes, sir.
give us a layout of where the tall buildings will be versus single family next to the neighborhood that's close to this?
Absolutely. I'm not sure if we'll be able to pull up or if I got a laser pointer here. Is there any way we could be able to pull up the plat on a bigger?
I'm sure we.
Or can we see it on a Google map? So we can see what's around there?
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Yeah, this,
yep, yeah, we can use this one. So those 4 buildings, here, I'll try to, if this works. Oops. So the 4 apartment buildings, as you pull in, here's Ustick Road right here. The 4 apartment buildings is right when you pull off to the right. You got 2 right there, and then as they shift in, you're going to have the additional 2 right here.
So what's behind those?
You're in here.
We've got, excuse me. Do you mind pulling it up? So we've got Ustick Road is behind the first 2, and then directly to the right, it is commercial ground, if I'm correct on that.
Next one. That's just a legend. You go to the next one over on the top right. Over to the right. you go, yep. There we go. So if I'm not mistaken, maybe I'll try it over here, the single-family homes are all here, next to that subdivision, and then those multifamily was here, and then up here, closer to the street.
Yes, that is correct.
Those would be those 35-plus foot, would be those multifamily.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
And then if I, on the, you're looking at this map, on the left side closest to USTIC, there's 4 rooftops. What are those? You go back to the,
Oh, yeah, like right along here.
yes,
They were.
you go back to the map of the subdivision.
I think those are those townhomes?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's 4 right there.
Those are townhomes, Councilmember.
Councilor Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the backside of the apartments will be on USTIC. What will they look like?
Well, again, our main goal is to be able to provide affordable housing, but yet our main priority is to be able to have quality buildings. When we were first bringing up this project, we kind of had in mind is the local developers around here. Our image for it was Perryman Construction has great-looking apartment buildings, and that's kind of the vision that we had on that. I believe they have some over on Montana and Lenity area, I believe it is.
Those are the Lenity apartments. So that would be important to me, and I understand that to maintain the cost for attainable housing, we need to keep it down, but at the same time, USTIC's a main corridor for us.
Absolutely.
And so I wouldn't want it to look like the backside of an industrial building or barracks or anything like that. So we'd have to take that into consideration, but I appreciate that.
Yes, Councilmember, if I may.
Real quick, sorry. If you go to page 182 of 499, your packet actually shows the exterior elevations of that those apartment buildings. So it does. So if you go from the back, it appears would be that one right kind of in the middle with the slanted roof. Yep. So, okay.
Awesome, thank you.
I don't know if you guys are able to pull that up or not. Oh, there we go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to get that.
No, again, I was just saying that, quality is our number one priority here. But we also understand that we're in a community that is, in need of housing that is affordable. But again, our target is to be able to reach out to the younger professionals in some of these areas, and the families that are just starting out coming into Caldwell. I think that's kind of what we're going. As you can see with our landscape plan, I mean, we've put in a lot of time to make sure that the aesthetic look of Silver Meadows is top notch, and hopefully is going to be looked at as one of the nicer looking communities on USTIC Road.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor
When you
Register.
talk about the affordability of it, do you know what they will be rented for?
I do not have the exact number on that one, but I would be happy to be able to supplement you with that later on. But I cannot give you the ballpark range on that.
Any follow-up or?
Yeah.
No, okay. Any other questions from council? Okay. Oh, did you? Okay, very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, with that, I would stand for a motion to close the public testimony portion of this hearing.
So moved.
And a second? Motion from Councilor Register, a second from Councilor McGee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. So that moves us into deliberation, questions for staff, and then also any potential motions as well. So the time is yours, council.
Mayor.
Yes, Councilor Doty.
I have a few concerns. Obviously, it sounds like the 41st Street connection is not, there's no agreement there yet, right? To connect that, as well as the canal agreement is not in place yet either. Do I have the correct understanding of those two?
Yeah.
I might defer to staff on that. So, it sounds like they're working through the agreement with Bureau of Rec to get the crossing. And then as far as the pathway though goes, that was, I think, more from staff requesting additional landscaping. Is that correct?
Mayor and council, so the, final encroachment letter that was discussed in the staff presentation was for the pathway and the landscaping. We did talk with them, and the hearing examiner also wanted to see 5 feet on one side at least if possible, but they do not believe that they can do that at this time. And then for the crossing, that hasn't been discussed with our department.
Mr. McDonald?
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council. With regards to the irrigation crossing and the 41st connection, they would not be obligated to have that approval at this point in the process, but once they submit their plan review and the city is reviewing the plans, they will not receive plan approval until they have that in hand and the city knows that that approval has been issued. So we wait till that process, that way we can make sure the bridge structure is correct and they have the approvals before we give them any permits.
Thank you.
Councilman McGee? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Katie, somebody addressed this, and I don't think I caught it, but just explain to me that the clubhouse is considered commercial? And maybe we've had that situation before, and I just don't remember it, which wouldn't surprise me at all at this point in my life. But can you just explain that a little bit more so I understand that?
Yeah, Mayor and council member. So the community center will be accessible to the public. And so kind of going back with the history of this project, they had the density and of a mixed-use PUD, and with previous staff that was discussed. And so this was kind of where we met in the middle and used it as a community center rather than said clubhouse. So it would be something that would be able to be accessed by the public, and whatever amenities were included in that.
Thank you.
And you're not losing your mind, because that is something new that I haven't seen before on that, so don't feel too bad on it. It's coming, I know it is, but I may have, if it's all right, a follow-up on that, because that is kind of a new concept. Is it going, do you know, is it going to be staffed during regular business hours? I mean, or is it just kind of open and anybody in the public can come in? It seems like they'd probably want somebody in there if it's just open.
Mr. Mayor, so that has not been discussed, to my knowledge. I don't know. The applicant may be able to have some information on that, but I don't know at this time.
Okay, very good. Yes, Councilor Doty.
Just to follow up on that, then, it's my understanding that's gonna be open to the public, but we already shortened it from 15 parking spaces down to 8, and we're gonna have parties and events there. Where are all of those people going to park?
Mayor and council member, that is a good question. That would probably be something that the applicant would be able to address. Obviously, I don't know if we have the opportunity for that anymore, but staff does not know at this time.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Thank
Councilor
you.
Doty.
Thank you. I already addressed it as a concern, so that's still my concern, is if we're gonna open that to the public and we only have 8 parking spots for the public, but we're gonna do special events there, it seems like it creates quite a parking mess, or has the potential to. So thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Register.
Okay, I have a list of questions or concerns. I thought I heard during the presentation that you said that that community center would be rentable. So I wasn't sure if that meant it would be open during the day and people could just walk in, or if they would actually have to rent it. So that's kind of a different, I don't know if you guys can answer that or not.
Mayor and council member, to my understanding, we kind of discussed both options in some of the meetings. I don't know if that was finally decided by the applicant specifically, but at the time we did talk about it being open to the public. And I don't know in what capacity that would.
Okay, because in the presentation, they mentioned something about it being available for rent. But, so I'm curious, because I think I say this in every meeting, concerned about the amount of, building that's going on USTIC. So if this is approved, I think I counted 8 projects that are coming on USTIC alone, right? And I know one of those is a very large, multifamily apartment complex at USTIC in Indiana. And then there were some other ones, but again, this would be 8 projects coming in on USTIC if this is approved. So my question for you guys, I don't know if you probably don't have this answer right off the top of your head, but I'm curious how, we keep talking about the need for housing, but yet how many doors are coming to Caldwell? Are we talking, with all the apartment buildings that are coming in, that have already been approved, that are being built, with the ones that are, where are we at with this?
Mayor and Council Register, we have, I would say, over the last 6 months, have seen a lot of applications come through for multifamily residential. We are currently in the process of working on that data.
Mm-hmm.
We've never actually tracked that data as far as we've tracked number of lots, but we've never tracked actual dwelling units.
Mm-hmm.
So that information is being gathered as we speak. We have put a hold on any kind of starting the comp plan process until probably in a couple months, because we want that data as we go into that process. So I can't give you that information yet, but what we are going to be looking for is not only how many units, but what are those types of units, where are they located, so that we can really determine what are the missing housing types and what are the locations and where we're missing those types.
Well, because my concern is that with the ones that I can just even recall, and I'm talking about all housing, the multifamily, single family housing, everything. I mean, we're talking about thousands and thousands of doors, and then you put 2 people in there or 3 people in there, and we're talking thousands and thousands of more people. And not that Caldwell doesn't want to invite people to move here, but there's already issues with the school, on top of the fact that we already have, I think we had determined 1 officer for every 1,000 people, which we're not up to par. We are 20 firefighters down, is that right? So we're keep approving and approving and approving, and we're not, we can look at the roads, we can look at the schools, we also need to be looking at public safety, and I'm just gonna say that. This project reminds me quite a bit of the Bryan Avenue project, which I've been very vocal about, as you know. And part of the issue that I have with that project, which was approved before this council came on, is they have 27 units, they have something like 7 parking spaces. They're gonna also borrow parking spaces from, 4plexes or something like that. You can already tell just by the base of the lot and how big this building is that all of that parking is going to come out into the street, into the neighborhoods. I realize that USTIC is a different animal as far as parking is concerned, the traffic, all of that kind of stuff. But the fact that there's so many requests for waivers, to me, makes it feel like this project is not suited for that lot. That when you have to ask for so many waivers on space and that kind of thing, it sounds like it's too big. Let's see, I got a bunch of other notes, but, well, I think that's probably kind of it. But I do think we're trying, on the Bryan Avenue, I'm watching it, and I'm watching them squeeze this gigantic building on this tiny lot, and I think that's kind of what this is looking like here as well. So I just have a lot of concerns about that, plus the waivers, plus the engineering stuff, plus the fact that we have thousands and thousands of people already slated to move to Caldwell with all these buildings. So I personally would like those numbers before I move on with anything like this.
Thank you so much. Councilor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think one answer to the question, as to how many more we need is a lot more. Housing is a need. It just is an ongoing need, and just attainable housing for our employees. I hear it over and over and over again, even most recently from the street department, who just needs to find some place on the salary that we're paying them to live in the city of Caldwell. And I like this project. I think there's a lot in here that I like, even though there are some problems in this. I'm particularly satisfied that there is that alternate egress onto 41st. It doesn't just involve U-Stick. It's within the master plan of our city comp plan. We're not asking for an amendment to that. It's in that location that is closer to the boulevard, it's closer to it's walking distance to Walmart and so many stores down there. It solves a lot of problems where this is going in, even though I'm hearing some objections to it. I want to be sure we're recognizing this solves a lot of the problems as well that we need to be addressing. And so there's some positives to this project, and I like the thinking that's going into it. Sometimes waivers are essential. You can understand why there might be a request for a waiver on that pathway when you're right up against that canal and other needs there. So I'm feeling a little more optimistic about this project in general.
Just to answer some of that, I agree that we should be having housing for employees, and I think Brad has thought about this and has some ideas about it too. But when we talk about affordable housing and then the question is asked, well, how much are you going to charge, and nobody knows, how do we know it's affordable, and how do we know that our employees are going to be able to afford it anyway? So I think that if there was a project that came up where we said, we're going to do these, whatever it is, and these are going to be for our employees, and this is how it's going to work, and it's going to be a city perk program, then I get that. But I still don't think we need to be putting in apartment building after apartment building after apartment building in the same place and causing some further issues with all the things that we've kind of talked about.
Other Counselor Allgood, are you wanting to?
I'm on tonight. I have some questions for staff, if it's all right. Testimony was that the clubhouse was going to be 3,000 square feet. In our document, it says 7,800 square feet. Do you have an idea of which one would be correct?
Mayor, council member, the 7,100, or the number that is in the report would be the number that staff was given at the time of the report.
As commercial clubhouse, 7,802 feet.
Staff did discuss with the applicant that they were going to shrink the clubhouse, I believe, and that would probably result in that 3,000 square feet.
Okay, and same page, follow-up question. It says, bottom of the page, it says fencing listed on plans are not clear. Seems as though residents will be responsible for their own privacy fences. Can you explain that?
Mayor, council member, they have on the new landscape plan, they have outlined that they'll be providing white vinyl fence along the perimeter of the development. And based on a discussion I had, I don't know if this has changed, that the residents would be doing their own fencing for their lots.
In between the lots, is that my correct understanding?
And behind if they were along the pathway and things, to my understanding.
Is that, just for clarification, are you talking about just the single-family lots, or would that include the townhouse lots as well? Do you know?
Mr. Mayor, so based on the conversation with the applicant, the ones along the drain, which I believe are townhomes, those were the ones that they mentioned there would not be a fence between the pathway and their lots. But it would be the owner's responsibility at that time.
Any other questions for staff, or any comments or any discussion from any council members? And if not, are there any motions from any council members?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Allgood.
I don't know that I'm ready to make a motion, but I agree with Councilor Williams. This is a good spot for a good plan like this. I just feel like there's some issues that are holding me up. That being the amount of waivers, the limited parking, the, idea that we do not have a crossing onto 41st, which would make USTIC, that's just an absolute requirement. Some of those things are just concerning me greatly. And I'm not sure where to go. I don't know whether this is ready for prime time or not. Just some tweaks seem to be made, in my opinion. I'd love to hear somebody else's thoughts.
Anybody else?
Give you mine
Yeah,
again.
Councilor Doty.
Especially now that public testimony is closed, if it is 7,100 or if it's 7,100, for sure, 8 parking spots is not going to be enough. I think it does have a lot of loose ends. Clearly, the fencing behind, it's a good catch on that. The fencing side by side is pretty standard that you got to put in, but the fencing along the way where it's jointly owned or constructed, I believe that's pretty common to see that now. So I just think, I agree with Councilor Williams on absolutely we need this type of housing. I just think we have a few too many loose ends right now that are just going to get fixed as we go along. And so that's my thoughts.
Any other discussion?
Yep, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor.
Just, again, Councilor Williams talked about having some places here that we can use for our folks without the pricing issue. I don't see how we could even think about those kind of things, because I can see how many times have we been here that everybody says affordable housing when it turns out they can't afford it in no way. So I'm without pricing, just too many loose ends on that too. So thank you.
Yeah, very good.
Mayor, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah.
It's difficult to talk to when we're talking about affordable housing or attainable housing. There really are a couple of different things that we need to understand here. And the problem we have is these developers aren't going to build something that they're going to lose money on. It's business. So they're not going to know what these are going to sell for or what they're going to rent for until they're built. So that's why when we talk about size, amenities, even the way they look, it will vary. They're never going to be able to give us an answer that can be, I don't want to sound, they can't give us a clear answer at this point in the game. It could take them, we heard in testimony, 3 years to build. What are building costs going to be? What are construction costs going to be? It's impossible, but that's why a project like this is important. And I would just encourage the builder that if this doesn't go through, that we work on this to get it back on the agenda, because we need this project where it's at for a lot of reasons, even though I'm not disagreeing with council on some of the concerns that they have. I think there's just too many for us at this point to list them all as our requirements for them to be approved. I don't know, maybe somebody, John's good at making motions where they include lots of,
Throw you right into the bus.
I want to see this approved, I really do. And I'm hearing your objections. I don't want to discount my colleagues on your objections, but even staff pointed out that engineering won't allow this project to be approved without that 41st crossing being solved. And so some of that is already built into the process. I just think we need to be careful. They're not asking for a variance. That's a big deal to me. They're coming in, they're within the master plan. It's a great location, it's walking distance, it's some housing that we need. And you've heard me address the other end where I said, no, it has to be nicer, it's close to the lake, and it's got to be a bigger lot. And you see me speak to both ends of this, and so I need to be more adamant about this project being something that I think is really reasonable. And we have these variances for a reason. There are times when we should allow them.
Well, we've
Hold
had,
on, 1 second. Councilor McGee, did you have?
Well,
I
I
was
was
grabbing
gonna, it may be more appropriate for Councilman Register to speak first, because I was gonna ask a question of the city attorney, just ask a question about process, so it may be more appropriate that.
Thank you. Well, I just wanted to address some of the things you said, because we've had multiple conversations about, in public hearings about Caldwell elevating a bit from where we've been. So I understand that, but I feel like we're kind of talking in circles, because sometimes we're saying we want to elevate, sometimes we're saying not. They use the word affordable, so if it's going to be affordable for them, then like we should have an idea of what that is, I believe. And as far as you know, builders coming in and wanting to obviously make a profit. Like, I totally understand that, but don't come in and say it's gonna be affordable, but not tell us how it's gonna be affordable. And don't come in and say that we're gonna do this with the crossing, and it should be more presented as this is the idea of what we're planning on doing or something like that, because when these promises seem like they're being made, that's when we question them and we want answers and we can't get answers.
Mr. Mayor, just to be clear, the variances that they're asking for are what make it more attainable.
We think. We don't know. So it's the same thing with the other apartments going in. We don't know what they're gonna charge. So if somebody's coming forward and saying, this is going to be affordable housing, then can we have some kind of clear definition of what that is?
Good. Councilor McGee?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and probably a question for the city attorney, and maybe I might have a follow-up, Mark, as well. I'm trying to, as Councilman Williams said, I'm trying to figure out maybe a path forward here. We have closed the public meeting portion of this item. Is it possible to, at a future council meeting, to reopen public hearing on this item?
Mr. Mayor, Councilman McGee, yeah, you could do that tonight. You could reopen public testimony portion, and take further comment if there are questions that might be able to be resolved tonight. You could also continue the matter, and take further testimony, when it comes back up for hearing. One thing I encourage, the council to do, if you're not going to approve, the law does require you to articulate the reasons why you're not approving. But I think there's also some concerns that the developer might be able to address. I think I heard maybe it was ready to go with some tweaks. If you want to identify what those are, that might be something that the developer and staff can work on if it is continued, and come back to try to create a better level of comfort maybe on some of those loose ends.
I think that's Mr. Mayor and Mark, I think that's a really good point. I feel like I failed in not asking questions about the clubhouse while public hearing was still open. I think probably the presenters would have been able to give us much more clear answers, especially about the clubhouse. And I know that Councilman Doty has questions about the parking as well. It just seems to me, and it's been articulated here already, that this is, for a lot of reasons, this is a pretty good project. And there are a couple of key questions, including the vinyl fence, and for me, it's the management of the clubhouse. Who's going to manage that? Is there an HOA involved? And I think those questions probably need to be answered by the developer, and the only way for us to really do that at this point is to extend this, or to put it to another date on the calendar, and then ask the presenter to come back and give us some more information. To me, there's good debate and discussion about, pros and cons to this project, but part of our debate is we just don't know the answer, right?
Yeah.
And so, Mr. Mayor, let me finish, and then because I can tell you have something to say as well. To me, Mr. Mayor, postponing this, giving the presenter some more time to work with staff and to answer some of the questions. They've clearly heard the questions that we've been asking tonight. Then maybe postpone this and then bring it back and reopen public testimony might be a pathway forward. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, and I would just say, would it be better to reopen the public testimony tonight and then continue it? So that's open and clear, and then as we move forward in that regard. And if there was any questions, you could get those answered tonight, and maybe it does answer enough, and if not, then continue it. So that always is an option. The slippery slope you get sometimes is you've had people in opposition testify. Now, do you let them speak again? But obviously we didn't, so that makes that much easier where it was only people in favor. We didn't have anybody in opposition. So we could stand for a motion to reopen the public testimony portion of the hearing, and then that way the applicant could answer those questions.
Yeah, Mayor, that's a really good idea. And so with that in mind, and you just articulated it, Mayor, if the motion is appropriate at this point, and I believe that it is, I would move that we reopen the public hearing portion of the testimony on action item number 5.
Okay. So we have a motion from Councilor McGee and a second from Councilor Williams to reopen the public testimony portion of this hearing. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Right.
Any opposed? That motion passes, so we are open again for business. So I think you've got some questions, so if you please come forward, Connor, and we'll just let them start firing away, so.
You're gonna make your money tonight, bud.
Okay, who would like to? Counselor McGee?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I've just a couple of questions, and you heard me, just a moment ago ask the one is, and I'm at fault for not asking this during your testimony, and I asked it too late, so staff wasn't able to provide the answer, and that's totally understandable, but because that clubhouse is unique, and the mayor talked a little bit about its uniqueness as well, what is the plan to manage it? So, for example, it's a public building. If my son wanted to have his birthday party at the clubhouse in this subdivision, could we call someone? Do we just show up? Help me understand how, because this is a unique situation, how that would be managed.
Yes, Councilmember, and I appreciate you asking that because the issue with the clubhouse has been one that it was kind of towards the end of our on the review side with the city staff. So again, as Katie mentioned earlier, the previous director and the city staff that we were working with, their interpretation of mixed use was separate from what was originally told to us during the roundtable meeting. And this was not brought up until earlier this year when we were already kind of looking at to be on the date for the hearing examiner. And so we had our plat completely finished with just a couple tweaks here and there about it. And then that's when the current city staff told us of the kind of new interpretation behind it. So as with the owners of the project, we had to be able to kind of evaluate exactly where do we go from here. We've already spent all this money and time to be able to get this plat reviewed all the way through. Where do we go from here? And so that's when we sat down with Katie and Director Robbins and trying to figure out a solution for the clubhouse situation of how we are able to get it into a commercial aspect to keep our mixed use. Because our plat, the money has already been spent, and that we had been sitting in there for 6, 7, 8 months, and we were just trying to be able to, again, be heard. We ran the idea of possibly getting to have them honor our roundtable meeting of back in 2022, 2021, where the residential housing variety was their former interpretation of the code. However, we thought that wasn't the betterment of Caldwell. We wanted to be able to work with the city staff and work with the current conditions at their new interpretation of what it is. So that wasn't us trying to skirt the code whatsoever. It was just I think we got caught at the wrong time of where we were at during the final review phase of when it got brought onto us. So the clubhouse and the commercial aspect was really for us to be able to work with the city staff and be able to get it to the city code. And the idea behind it was we already had the drawings, we already had everything for the clubhouse. So the next step was, how do we figure out how to be able to make this a commercial aspect? And I know the question was brought in of, we've got to be able to open to public the whole time. And so what we agreed with the city staff in one of our meetings was, the public will not be able to walk around in it. We're using it in the aspect of the office leasable space that's in there. It's not many because it is a 3,000 square foot building. The 7,000, I believe, is the lot size. So 3,000 square feet is the actual building that we've got in there. So we'll have leasable office space that's open to the public. And also we'll have an event center in there where someone can be able to come in and rent it. How they go about that, we've thrown a few ideas as far as an HOA runs it. Another one is, which is likely what's going to be, is the leasing office for the apartment buildings. They are likely going to be the ones that are going to be controlled and on staff to be able to rent it out. So if you wanted to be able to go and rent the space for, say, a gathering, a business meeting, or if you wanted to be able to rent some of the office space that was in there, you would call the leasing office and they will handle it.
Okay, thank you, and that makes a lot of sense. Mayor, if I could ask another
Yes,
question.
please.
Thank you. One of the concerns that got brought up post-public hearing, although we're back in public hearing, so one of the questions that got brought up, which is a concern of mine, I need to understand this better, is if I understand this correctly, the walking path and the homes or the the townhomes that abut that, there will be no fence between the path and the home unless the homeowner pays for it. Am I understanding that? And I see the microphone's being passed, so maybe it's gonna get answered somewhere else, but in dealing with all these subdivisions next to the path over the last couple of years, I don't remember if that's standard or if that's something we do, or we have asked the developers to build the fence next to the pathway. I'm just picturing myself, Mayor, sitting out there, on the patio, talking to Hannah, and somebody's walks 5 feet, right next to us in the path, and so I'm just trying to understand if that's something that we've done in the past, if we've required that, or, it doesn't seem to me that we have not required that before. Maybe that's a question best asked for staff. And I don't even know if I articulated that correctly. So let me back up and rephrase it. Is the vinyl fencing, must that be paid for by the homeowner in between the home and the pathway?
Jesse, did you come up here to answer that?
I came up here to talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
Okay, please, thank you.
Okay. Do I need to say my name again?
If you could, just for the record.
Jesse
make it easier,
Christensen,
so we-
2151 West Willow Point Avenue, Nampa, Idaho. On the updated landscape plan, there is a chain link fence on the outside of the walking path, and there is a white vinyl fence on the inside of the walking path between the homes and the walking path. So there are two fences. Laser?
Okay, so let's stay with that for a minute.
Okay.
Who is paying for the white vinyl fence?
The developer will be putting in the white vinyl fence. It's on the landscape plan to be put in.
Okay, that answers my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
And just real quick, just for clarification on that, that's all right. So that would be, are we talking along, let's see, along here, kind of the full exterior of the property for that white vinyl?
Yes, there was a white vinyl fence on the exterior of the property. On the other side of the landscape path, there's a chain link fence separating the landscape path from the ditch.
That would be over here, correct, on that?
So there'll be two fences within 10 feet of each other based on what we've asked for.
Okay, very good. Yeah, thank you for that clarification. So, yes,
Just to
Councilor
follow up
Doty.
on that, but
Mhm.
is that what our city has in their plans? They seem to be talking amongst each other over there, so if it's not in our city plans, and again, just to guarantee it's gonna get done, it just doesn't seem like the plans are matching up. You have different plans, and it sounds like the city has plans, and so is there a correction? Do we have what he's talking about in our city plans?
Mayor, council member, I do have the plans that he's talking about, and it does show that. Those are the late exhibits. That was not something that, staff saw at the time of review, at the beginning of this week.
Thank you.
Yeah, very good. Okay, other questions?
I still have some then, if he's
Yeah.
up here. for a minute.
Mr. Mayor, if I could provide more and more comment about the parking issue with the clubhouse. So again, dealing with the clubhouse of turning it into a commercial. So originally, because it was just a clubhouse, it didn't require any additional parking. But because then in that late part of the game of when we were at the final review of our plat, it got changed to commercial. So then that's when it was then changed to that we would have to have 15 additional more. That is when we went back in and we found as much space as possible we could for with the parking spaces, again, because we wanted to be able to work with the city here and be able to show our best faith effort and to be able to provide parking spaces if we're going to be calling that a commercial ground. Again, it is a 3,000 square foot building, and so we don't intend or we don't foresee it being very many vehicles, commercial aspect to it, other than when people are coming in and using it possibly for the leasable office space or the times that they do a rent center, or rent the center for it. So I just wanted to be able to provide clarification on that one.
I have some follow-up, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Councilor Doty.
So how many leasable office spaces do you have?
As of right now, we have 2 in there.
Okay, so that
Two.
takes 8 parking spots down to 6 at least, right?
Correct.
Folks will need a place to park.
Correct.
And then I know, speaking of my subdivision, if we're gonna talk about affordable housing, usually there's multiple vehicles. So we all have a place to park in my subdivision. One house has like 4 people in it with 6 vehicles that take up all the parking along there. So if you have 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, if 3 people are living in there, they're all gonna have vehicles, sometimes multiple vehicles. We're already only giving 1.5 parking spots. And I agree with, again, Councilor Wim, this is a nice project. My biggest concern is parking, because if they can't park there, where do they go? They start parking in front of fire hydrants or on the grass or down the streets and in other people's, though we don't own the street, we certainly a lot of times expect to be able to park in front of our house. Well, if you have a whole party there of 40 people, they're gonna line those streets, and those folks coming home aren't gonna have a place to park unless you have off-street parking. So it's not about the project. I think it's a great project. My true concern is the parking and the frustration that causes, and the calls that come into the city about there's no parking for the residents that live here because of whatever commercial unit is there taking up all the parking on the city street. So, and clearly we all have a right to park on the city street, but if it's being occupied by a business and they're taking up the whole street, it can become quite frustrating, so.
Okay, very good. Other questions that have come up that you want to ask this time? Okay. No other questions? Yes, Mr. Anderson?
I'd like to address the council if I may.
Okay, yes, please come forward. And if you could just state your name and address.
Carl Anderson, 1816 Idaho Avenue in Caldwell. I wanted to address a couple of things with the parking. It's only a 3,000-foot building with 2 office spaces. It is deficient, but I don't believe it's going to create a huge parking issue. There are plenty of parking for the multifamily by code. What I wanted to talk about is the bridge going over the drain to the 41st Avenue. That, I believe, is a tremendous asset to the project and to the city of Caldwell. It's going to be able to disperse traffic to the north that is available because D&B Supply is no longer there. It's really shortened the amount of traffic on the boulevard, both east and west. Additionally, the area that, I'm going to call it an commercial / industrial area, it's blighted. And I really believe that the traffic across to the north is going to put some pressure on getting some paved streets, maybe some curb gutter sidewalk on the Dearborn and Everett between Lake and 41st. For whatever reason, it is blighted. We haven't had any code enforcement, I don't believe, out there. I mean, it's a battle zone if you've been out there. And I think that we can be a catalyst to really improve that area.
Yes,
So,
sir.
I'll get off my soapbox.
No, we appreciate that, so.
I still have a question.
Yeah, no, Councilor Doty has a question.
So is there any leeway here where you could add more parking? So if we were to make some sort of motion tonight under the approval of the city, is there some place where you can get rid of a house, add more parking, something like that? That's really my hang up on this is.
We could probably create some parking where the 4 townhouses are and drop that down to 2. I don't have a scale, but I would think that we could get an additional, we could get a significant number of spaces in there.
It's blue square, yeah. So,
Corner lot here even, right?
Parking right there, so it's close to the clubhouse.
So, yeah, Mr. Mayor, to Councilman Doty's point, because I think he's on to a pathway here. And if we certainly can require in the variances that a certain amount of parking spots be surround the clubhouse. It's my understanding, Carl, right now there's 8, but based on just a little, we have to be careful, I think, as councilman, micromanaging these things. However, if this is the one roadblock keeping us from passing this, I think it is worth a discussion. It is worth an effort to try to come up with what that might look like. Let's say we were to say there needed to be 16 parking spots near the clubhouse for the use of the clubhouse. I'm just eyeballing it, and I'm not an engineer. I'm not an architect. I'm just a simple country boy from Valley View, Mr. Mayor. But could we, Carl, is it possible to put another 8 stalls around there, either in that lot, as the mayor and Councilman Doty pointed out, that lot that's kind of adjacent this way to the clubhouse? Thank you, Mayor. It would actually go alongside the parking that you already have in existence there. Is that a pathway forward for your development?
We would lose one lot, however, how many parking spaces are available to the east right now? I mean, it would almost double that, whatever that number is.
It's 8 to the east right now.
Pardon me?
8 to the east right now.
Yeah,
so if we could do 8 on that lot to the west, I think we could do that.
Yeah, so you're turning that quickly into 16. You're almost doubling the capacity that you previously allotted.
And again, I want to reiterate that commercial building will be leased. You know, people won't just be walking around and helping themselves, going in and working out. I mean, those are for residents of the Silver Meadows PUD.
Okay. So it sounds to me then, Carl and council, that if we were to ask you to, hypothetically, if part of this motion would be to include 16 parking stalls at or adjacent to the clubhouse, that is something that you could factor into what you're already doing.
We've got 8, and we can add 8 more.
Okay. All right.
Specifically.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Carl or for Connor? Is that right? I gave my cheat sheet away already, so.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Stuttick.
Just a comment. Even if the parking was acceptable, that still doesn't solve the problem with law enforcement, more firemen and all that. Who pays for that?
Well, I would tell you that impact fees pay for that.
Oh, well.
And in addition to that, new homes are not the cause of fires. Most of your fires are electrical fires on old homes with 2-wire systems. You don't have very many fires on new construction, and that's well documented.
They also respond to medical calls, so every time we add more people, we're taking care of more people, whether it's fire, medical, lift assist, whatever it is.
And until the state legislature, I hate to pick on Councilman Allgood again, until they decide to have impact fees for new developments, it ain't gonna happen. And that's part of our biggest problem.
There are impact fees on new development. Every one of those lots pay fire, pay police, and there's a third, park and rec fees.
Mm-hmm.
So there is money going to those.
Yeah, but it's still enough because it doesn't solve the infrastructure problems that we have in the city. So.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Anderson or for Connor? Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Yes, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Are we ready to close public testimony portion of the hearing?
That's what I was
for the final time, final answer.
That's what I was going to suggest, Mr. Mayor. I can't speak for everyone, but I feel like my questions have been answered, and to me, I think there's a pathway forward here. So I would move that we close public testimony.
And a second. So we have a motion from Counselor McGee, a second from Counselor Williams, to close the public testimony portion of this hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. So now that puts us back again to, or if you have questions for staff or discussion, and I know there's been a lot of discussion, so if you want to even just jump right into a motion, that's more than appropriate as well.
I have a quick question for staff.
Yes.
Very quick. How long do you think it will take to get those numbers available of how many doors we have coming to Caldwell as it stands?
Mayor and Councilor Register, I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's probably gonna take us a good month
Okay.
to get those numbers at a minimum, because we have to go back and pull every single case file and go back through them.
Thank you.
Okay. Very good. Any other questions, discussion, or any motions?
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor McGee.
I'll make a motion, based upon the testimony and evidence and record in this matter and upon the findings of fact and conclusions of law, I move that PUD 22-9 and SUB 2237 for plan unit development with a preliminary plat be approved, subject to the conditions that are listed by staff and including 16 total clubhouse parking spots adjacent or surrounding the clubhouse.
Very good. So we have a motion from Counselor McGee for approval of the requested PUD and subdivision with conditions as outlined by staff, which include the newly revised landscape plan that shows the fencing around the property, as well as the additional parking stalls, as was noted by Mr. Anderson in his testimony, basically doubling the number that's existing there on the north side of the clubhouse and extending it along that parcel. Does that sound correct? Okay, very good. So that is the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
So we have the motion again from Counselor McGee and a second from Counselor Williams for approval of the request. And so we would stand for any comments or any discussion on that motion at this time.
Well, I just gotta say, Jesse saved the project. I was seeing all these townhomes along the creek with no fence, with little kids running across the thing and falling in the Wilson Drain. And like, when I heard 2 fences there, I was much better with that situation. That was one of my holdups, so.
Okay, very good. Any other discussion on the motion? Okay, and that will move us into voting on the motion. So, Madam Clerk, do you mind calling a roll? Or do we have it? There we go. Okay, so that the voting is open at this time. And again, the motion is for approval of the request. It's not working. Okay, let's just call roll, if you don't mind, Madam Clerk.
McGee?
Yes.
Baldwin?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Jody?
Yes.
Register?
No.
Scotty?
No.
Good. So that motion does pass, 4 in favor and 2 in opposition, in regards to the, requested plan unit development and subdivision. So with that, I stand for a motion to close this public hearing item.
Moved.
Second.
Motion from Counselor, Doty and a second from Counselor Sadek to close this public hearing item. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. So that moves us on to action item number 6, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not getting any negative nods from over there. So, this is for case number SUB 23-4, the Village Condos, from 18 Land Consultants, requesting approval of condominium preliminary plat for the Village Condos consisting of 23 fourplex buildings and 8 eightplex buildings on approximately 11 1/2 acres. So with that, staff, Mr. Jones, is this you? Okay, turn the time over to you.
All right. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Alex Jones, Associate Planner, 601 Cleveland Boulevard. Today, applicant is presenting the Village Condos as a subdivision plat. So for the application request, the project location is a 11.43 acre parcel located on the southeast corner of Laster Street and South Florida Avenue. The applicant is requesting a preliminary plat of the Village Apartments. Here are photos of the subject site. For development proposal, it's 24 fourplexes, 8 eightplexes, total of 156 apartment units. Density of this has all been approved and has a development agreement to this. The only thing being approved today would be to subdivide this project for condos. For landscaping, there's no change to the approved plans. Here are the elevations, which will be matching the already existing buildings. For existing conditions, we have R2 to the north, C2 to the south, R1 to the east, and R1 to the west. Comprehensive plan, this is high-density residential, proposed density of 13.6 dwelling units per acre. Utilities are available to this site. Agency notifications mapping needed them to use their approved street names. That has been fixed in the application. Hearing examiner recommended approval on May 10th. Oops. There we go. Staff finds this is conformance with the comprehensive plan and recommends that if council approves the request, that they are subject to the findings and conclusions. Stand for questions.
Thank you so much. Any questions from council at this time for staff? Yes, Counselor Allgood.
I just want to make sure I understand what we're doing here. Are we breaking this up so each individual building can be sold?
That is correct.
Okay. Any other questions for staff at this time? Okay, thank you so much. So we do have people signed up to testify in this matter, so we'll begin with those.
Mayor?
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry, can I just clarify real quick? So this was a previously approved apartment development, and this plat is to condo them. So they're actually breaking up the units, the dwelling units themselves, not the building. So, Oh, they're just doing buildings? They're condoing the buildings? Okay. So they're just selling the buildings with the airspace, not the land. The land remains under their ownership. So it's a condo plat.
The land remains under one title. Each building is sold individually.
That sort of sounds like, yeah. We'll get that clarification here. So, signed up in neutral, I'm guessing in favor, correct?
Yes.
Both you and Mr. Geedy. So we'll.
Well, I can't speak for the other one that signed up, but
Okay.
I'm the applicant.
Yes. So, very good. So that, Mr. Arnold, if you please state your name and address for the record. And again, we're just clarifying that you are not neutral, but in favor of the.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, for the record, Steve Arnold, I'm with 18 Land Consultants, 1785 Whisper Cove Avenue, Boise, 83709. We started this project, well, the first approval for all of the 156 units and the multifamily started in 2016 with the zoning ordinance amendment and the comp plan amendment, along with the rezone and the design of this project. We originally spoke with staff about doing a preliminary plat, which would be just a straight, lots where you're selling the land off with or without a building. We ran into some difficulties at the final plat stage, or I guess the submittal stage. So we have switched from the preliminary plat to a condo plat. I've done a condo plat once before. They're basically airspace. It's kind of hard for me to grab my head around. We did it on a hospital, and you basically have chunks of airspace all on one parcel of land. So we don't see it very often. It's done a lot in other parts of the country, but it was recommended that for us to get through some of the issues with some of the design, that we'd best do a condominium plat. So the whole idea in the beginning behind this project was we would go out, we would build it, and then we would plat it eventually. So essentially we've gotten it approved, gotten the infrastructure put in for the first phase of the development. And then, we're working on phase 2 and phase 3 right now. So the next step is submitting this, preliminary plat for the condominium. We're shortly ready to submit phase 1 final plat, assuming the council approves this preliminary. But everything's built, everything's been approved once before. There is really nothing new coming, in front of the city, and I apologize, but that's all my presentation. I don't have much to say that it was already done, so I'll stand for questions.
Very good. And no reason to apologize on being short, so it's appreciated, actually. So appreciate the testimony provided. Any questions from council members for Mr. Arnold?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor Stanek.
So, Mr. Arnold, so who's gonna police the property itself then? Is that the landowner that's gonna police that, or?
Yeah, I should give, I'm sorry, Mayor, Councilman Stanek, there is going to be a clubhouse on site. The builder is actually the owner, so he's policing the site as it's being built. But the policing after it's all built will be done by an HOA or an association.
Okay, so there'll be a property management of some type after it's built?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I believe that's in the DA too, in the original DA.
Okay. Any other questions from council members?
I just want to continue with Councilor Stoddick's statement. I always get shivers down my spine when we're condoing these things or breaking them up, because you got absentee owners, LLC owners, and they own a building, but they don't care what's going on there as long as the rent's being paid. So having someone on site to make sure the whole facility is maintained is a priority, at least for me. And you're saying that will be occurring?
Yeah, Mayor, Councilman, all good. What typically happens in a lot of the multifamily that we do, which I've done a ton of in the last 10 years, is even though they're all sold off and they can be individually owned, or they could be owned by one group. And the benefits of splitting it off, even if it's owned by one group, is liability. You can spread liability on one building, on just one building instead of a whole project. So would be single ownership. If it's under multiple ownerships under the project, which very likely this will be, every one of those is under and controlled by the HOA. So let's say someone from California owns a building, and you got 20 others that are owned by locals here. They're all paying into the same system that requires the maintenance. So it's all called out in the maintenance agreement. And that really has got nothing, it really doesn't change from a platting situation to just a single lot situation, to where it's very similar management. You just got more members a part of that HOA.
One more.
Yes, please, go ahead.
This is new to me too, kinda. So the building sits on a piece of ground. Does the building owner pay like a footprint lease or something for the ground that his building is occupying, or how does that work?
Mayor, Councilman, all good. That's a good question. My guess is so if you own the building, is the question, do you pay a fee to maintain the stuff, or are you paying a lease to own that building?
For instance, our airport hangars, you own the hangar, we own the ground. You pay an annual lease rate for the ground your hangar sits on.
Good example. Yeah, so it's just like the airport hangars. They're paying a fee that pays the lease and also pays for the maintenance. In this case, because I think the airport, I've looked at the hangars, but the airport doesn't sell the buildings, they do sell them.
No.
Yeah, they don't sell them. These we will sell, and they will be owned by someone else, but we will be requiring everyone to pay in to an HOA that maintains the entire thing. And a lot of that too is there's insurance requirements and a bunch of other requirements that you put into the purchase and sale agreement and the lease agreements and all that, and that's above my pay grade.
Any other questions? Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
So I do have Rod Didi that signed up in neutral. Is that correct, or are you in set? Yeah, very good. If you don't mind stating your name and your address for the record, you can just pull that mic down if you need, so you can speak into it better. Perfect.
Rod Didi. I live at 5401 South Florida, which is the southern adjacent property to the project. The Village Condos property was zoned originally as retirement community with singular one-story construction before June 6, 2016, I believe, when it was amended. And I never got notification as a property owner on that change or that amendment meeting proceedings. So, and I was still working at the time, and anyway, time went by and it was approved, which is neither here nor there. It's, you know, I've been watching that construction since it started, and it's one of the nicer projects in the valley, in my opinion. My main concern is when they bring those units up next to my property line, they're going to be 20 foot off the boundary, and they're two-story. They're looking right into my backyard, my front yard, my side yards, and everything else. And there hasn't been any sign that they want to put anything up as far as a privacy barrier or fence for security and safety. I heard them say last meeting that they had something about a 4-foot fence. Well, all the projects I've seen in this valley going in, subdivisions, 99% of them have a 6-foot fence at least, you know, for privacy and security, dividing the homes. And so that's what I'm requesting, that they put in at least a decent fence for my privacy, my security, and also a landscape barrier of arborvitae. They said there's no room, 20-foot distance from our borders to the back of the unit. Well, some of the arborvitae only get about 4 foot wide. I think there's room if they want to squeeze it in. It might take a while for them to get 20 foot tall, but that's what it's going to take to block out the upper stories looking into my yard, basically. I've born and raised in Caldwell, went to school here, graduated Caldwell High. I've lived out there for 53 years and always been in agriculture. And yeah, there's big changes. I'm also on the Pioneer Irrigation District Board, so we deal with a lot of this stuff. And it's nerve-wracking at times, because I'm sure you guys go through it too. But anyway, give you a little background of my history, and that's all I got to say.
Very good. Thank you so much. I just want to clarify, are you just to the south? That property there, that's where you are? Right there.
Correct.
Okay, very good. Okay, any questions from council? Okay, so maybe just real quick, Mr. Didi, if you don't mind, just clarification. So your main concern is just some type of fence, screening between you and the property?
Right, I mean, if they're just, you know, I'm worried about, you know, about a 4-foot fence. I mean, a fair-sized animal can jump over it. Pets, or people are going to have their pets, they're going to jump over that thing. They're going to be, or even kids crawling over it into my lane. And I'm sure you're all aware of what everybody's getting packages delivered to their front doors anymore. So, and UPS and Amazon are running in and out of there along with other delivery trucks, along with our personal vehicles, and I don't think I should be held liable for that.
Okay, thank you. Any,
Mayor,
do you have a
yeah.
question? Yes, Councilor Stronach.
Mr. Eady, did you have any conversations with the developer or the developer with you
I
prior
tried
to
talking to their manager out there about this in the past, and I could never get an answer from them.
Okay. There were no preliminary meetings after none whatsoever? Okay.
So as
thank
far as I know, there was nothing in the plan that I could see on the plan
Mhm.
that they were gonna put, something in, as far as a barrier.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Councilman.
Yes, thank you so much for coming down. So we do have a number of people signed up in opposition. I just want to make sure that they did sign up on the right, one. So, Jennifer Graham, Tyler Cummings, Tina Cummings, Ron Cummings, and Tanner Morales. Are any of you here? It might have been, so they had signed up, their address is on Dorman Avenue, which is out off of Farmway in U6. I wonder if there was another project that maybe.
Yeah, that would have been the
Okay.
24-month continuation.
There were 4 folks that got up as soon as you announced that and walked off.
Okay,
So I'm
so that was
guessing
probably,
what it was.
that was probably, yeah, I was trying to figure out the correlation between Dorman and this, so we will assume that they were signed up, under the wrong sheet, which is understandable, on that, so, Mr. Arnold, could you come forward, please, and just, we'll give you a few minutes for rebuttal, maybe just address just that one kind of request questions from Mr. Dede.
Yeah, Mayor, members of the City Council, again, Steve Arnold, 18 Land Consultants, 1785, Boise, Idaho. Yeah, I've not talked, to Rod to the south. I know that he has had some conversation with one of our foremen that's out there. Something to keep in mind, and where we're limited now is we've cut that road in along the south. It's cut in, we've got all of the utilities in, and they're in place where, the road is going. So right now, we can't really shift things. So keep that in mind. Otherwise, we'd offer up potentially, increasing the buffer there. As it sits now, the buildings and the utilities to those buildings are in. So shifting, that wouldn't be an option. At the hearing examiner, I said that, the only fence that is typically done on these type of projects is we do, a 4-foot vinyl fencing around the mechanical units. In this case, we're not even doing any of that fence. We're just adding extra landscaping to put around the mechanical units to screen them off. In this case, what we could do along the southern boundary is, as Rod asked, is some arborvitae and maybe do a small berm that we can, put some of it on top. But, ideally, we stick with the original approvals that we already have, but in order to be a good neighbor, we could do that. That parcel is for sale. There is a sign on it. It's commercial, and it likely won't be residential for too much longer, as you're seeing. With that said, I'll stand with questions.
Okay, thank you so much. Questions from council?
I probably missed it again, Mayor.
That's all right.
So the gentleman who testified, who's living in the house, that parcel's for sale commercially?
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay, that is all that have signed up to testify on this, so it's time for our motion to close the public testimony portion of this hearing, given that you've asked all your questions.
So moved.
Okay, you've been fair warned. Okay, so we have a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Stoddard to close the public testimony portion of this hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. So that moves us, into council discussion. Again, questions for staff are always appropriate and motions are always appropriate. So, this is again, a request for, a condo plat subdivision, dividing the, approved request into where they could sell the lot stays as is, but sell the airspace for where the buildings are at. So, if you have any questions on that, staff is ready to answer them, and then any discussion, and this, as I mentioned, any motions as well.
Mr. Mayor,
Counselor Allgood.
I'll make a motion on case number SUV many zeros and 4. Based upon the testimony and evidence and record in this matter, and upon the findings of fact and conclusions of law, I move that SUV 23-4 for condominium preliminary plat be approved. And it's not a condition of approval, but I would ask that, the gentlemen work together to put up some kind of shrubbery or whatever to ease both people's, position on that. I realize it's late in the game, but if you would, make an effort, that would be greatly appreciated. Anyway, I move for that. To be approved.
So we have a motion from Counselor Allgood and a second from Counselor McGee for approval of the requested, subdivision. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, I think we have it working now, so let's give it a go. So voting is open. And it looks like it is working. So all votes have been cast, so voting is closed. And that motion passes with 5 in favor and 1 in opposition. So Counselor Register did vote against the approval, and the other 5 council members did vote in favor on that. So, that is approved, and I would just echo what, Counselor Allgood had stated. But if you could please work with that neighbor to the south, see if you can't do something to, the situation there, and that would be much appreciated. Wasn't a condition of approval. Understand it's kind of outside the purview of that subdivision request, but being a good neighbor is always a good thing. So we'll just ask you to do that and maybe have to talk to him before you guys leave tonight. Would be appreciated. So, with that, we're going to take a 10-minute break. We'll be back for our next item.
Mr. Mayor, I was hoping you would read all of these,
I want to read by the time we get back. 10-minute break. You guys are going to take a break and leave me here to read. Yeah, that's not, I don't even read them when they're just one of them, so.
Good idea. Okay, Mayor's getting ready to read all these numbers.
Actually, I'm gonna make it very easy. Very, very easy. Are we back?
Case number, not
Wait.
all of those. That's all
You didn't read all these numbers. No.
Got all these.
Okay, we are back. Are we good to go on the recording and everything and all that? So, okay. So, our next item, action item number 7, I'm gonna make this actually very easy tonight. So the applicant is actually not here, and so I'm going to request that this be continued, to the next council meeting I will not be at. We'll let the council president read all of these R numbers.
I see how this is. I make a motion, we do not continue it.
So, no, we don't have to read those when it does get, but yeah, I would ask that we continue. I don't know what the next June 20th is looking like. We okay on that? We won't be here all night. Okay, so with, and I think it's important that the applicant be here. It is a rezone request. Sometimes if it's a very simple item, which this may be, but still with a rezone, it's good to have somebody here to explain why it should be approved. So, rather than just denying it, which the council does have that option, but I would not recommend that. I would say let's give them a chance to come back, and to continue it to the June 20th city council meeting. Do we have any motions in that regard? Second. So the motion from Councilor Doty and second from Councilor McGee to continue action item number 7.
And 8, I believe, sir.
Yes, thank you. And 8, so it's for case number ZON 23-1 and for Faith Landing, subdivision. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. And that moves us on to action item number 9. So this is, case number ZON 23-3, a request by EV Studio on behalf of Michael Robbins to rezone approximately 2.7 acres from R1 low-density residential to R3 high-density residential, for the Gables Senior Living Project. And this is Mr. Jones, correct? Okay, Alex, time is yours.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. Action on Social Planner 621 Cleveland Boulevard. Today we are looking at the rezone application for the Gables expansion. For request, the project location is a 2.76 acre parcel located west of the Ustick and Idaho Avenue intersection. The applicant is proposing the parcel to be rezoned to R3 high density residential. Here are photos of the subject parcel. This is the Gables Assisted Living. For the development proposal, the applicant is asking to rezone the property R3 to match the comprehensive plan. Currently, this facility is a legal non-conforming use as assisted living. Assisted living is not an allowed use in the R1 zone, but is a permitted use in the R3 zone. Currently, they are zoned in the R1 zone. It was allowed back in the day. Codes changed, now they're not allowed. The applicant also wants to expand the memory care portion of their facility. With this expansion, they're asking to reduce the rear setback from 15 foot to 10 foot. This expansion is what triggered this whole rezone, that they were not able to expand in their current zone. No SUP or variance could be obtained to do this expansion, so the rezone was the option that they could continue their use legally conforming and do their expansion as well. For landscaping, we're looking at enhanced landscaping in the rear of the parcel, and the rest of it complies. The enhanced landscaping is more of trees, shrubs, and grass along the southern portion or the northern portion of this. This is the proposed addition. For existing conditions, we have R1 to the north, R1 to the south, R1 to the west, and R3 to the east. And for the comprehensive plan, it is going to be it is zoned to high density residential, which matches the east as well, and R1 surrounding, except for medium density in the southwest corner. Utilities are available and already in place. We received no notifications from anyone. The hearing examiner recommended approval on May 10th. And staff finds that this is a conformance with the comprehensive plan, and that if the council approves, that be subject to the conditions in the FCO. I stand for questions.
Very good. Thank you so much, Alex. Any questions from council at this time? Okay, very good. So we have just one person signed up to testify on this matter, and I'm guessing is the applicant signed up in favor. Amanda Bidwell, is that correct? if you'll come forward, and if you'll please, state your name and your address, and then the time is yours.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Amanda Bidwell, ED Studio, 725 East Second Street in Meridian. I'll keep it brief. I know we're all kind of ready to go home for the evening, so Mr. Jones covered the application pretty well. The building was built back in the 90s and wasn't approved use at that time. It was planned for future expansion then as well. They're ready to pursue that expansion at this time, and because we weren't approved use in this zone, we're requesting a rezone to make that happen. So I'll stand for any questions.
Very good. Thank you so much. Any questions from council? Councilor
Mayor, Miss or Mrs. Bidwell, is this the type of community where the occupant owns the building and the developer owns the property, or is it what type of, no?
No, it's council member, it's an assisted living facility, so it's owned by a company that rents the rooms out.
Okay, so it's strictly rental then, no?
Care.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here. As I mentioned, there is nobody signed up in opposition or neutral. Amanda was the only one signed up on this item. So with that, I would stand for motion to close the public testimony portion of this hearing.
So moved.
This is a motion from Councilor Stodic and a second from Councilor McGee to close public testimony portion of this hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that motion passes. So with that, it moves it into council discussion regards to the rezone request, or any questions for staff. As mentioned, this is a legal non-conforming use. So what that again means is just that it was built at the time when it was allowed. Now it's not. And so it basically just is bringing it into conformance with current zoning standards for this request. So if you do have any questions for staff, they're available. Any discussion amongst yourself, and also any motions.
Mayor, I'm ready to make a motion.
Councilor Doty.
We're on number 9, right? Based upon the testimony and the evidence and record in this matter and upon the findings of facts and conclusions of law, I move that zone 23-3 for a rezone from R1 low density residential to R3 for the expansion of the Gable Senior Living Memory Care Facilities be approved.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion for Councilor Doty for approval of the request with the conditions as outlined by staff, and a second from Councilor Stodic. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, voting is open. All votes are cast, so voting is now closed, and that motion does pass unanimously. So that does approve that request for the rezone, and so that moves us on to action item number 10. This is for the bill and ordinance for that rezone. So bill number 17, ordinance number 3501, to move for its passage by title only. And the title reads, an ordinance determining that certain land lays within the city limits of the city of Caldwell, county of Canyon, state of Idaho, and that said land should be rezoned to the R3 zone, determining that said change in zoning is in the best interest of the city of Caldwell, Canyon County, Idaho, directing the city engineer and planning and zoning director to amend said property on the official maps of the city of Caldwell, Idaho, and repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, or parts thereof in conflict herewith. We have a sponsor of this bill and ordinance.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Doty.
make a motion to approve the passage of number 17, ordinance 3501 by title only, and to approve the summary for publication.
Second. So we have a motion from Councilor Doty and a second from Councilor Stodic for adoption of bill number 17, ordinance number 3501. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, the voting is now open. All votes are cast, the voting is closed, and that motion passes unanimously. That moves us into action item number 11. Consider bill number 24, ordinance number 3508, repealing and replacing chapter 2, article 32 of city code pertaining to pathway and bike routes committee. The request to move for its passage by title only, improve summary for publication. Julie, I'm guessing that's what you're here for, is that correct? Very good. Do you mind just coming forward and just kind of, just a quick synopsis of the request and
Hello, Mayor and councilors. This was as pertaining to the workshop that I presented to you in May concerning the development of a Parks and Recreation Commission to replace the Pathways and Bike Routes Committee that has been in place. The idea is for this to be a more comprehensive body that will include pathways, but also the development of parks and the use of funding and how we want to develop our parks to accurately reflect the city and where we are and where we're going. So if anybody had any questions, I'm here to answer those.
Very good. Thank you so much. Councilor McGee, is there a question?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick comment there. Originally, I know when we were talking about this, a couple of people had contacted me with, I think they were actually on the committee concerned about what that might entail. And I think, Mayor, you and Julie have done a great job of explaining to them that they'll still have a voice and they'll still be heard. And so kudos to you guys for making sure that they understand that. So this is a good change.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other questions from council? Okay, very good. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Appreciate that. So again, this is an ordinance number 3508, bill number 24. So I'll read it by title only and then stand for any motions for its passage. So this is an ordinance enacted by the Caldwell City Council repealing and replacing Chapter 2, Article 32 of the Caldwell City Code pertaining to the Pathways and Bike Routes Committee, providing for an effective date, providing for severability, and repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, and parts thereof in conflict herewith. So with that, do we have a sponsor of ordinance number 3508, bill number 24?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Allgood.
I'll sponsor bill number 24, ordinance number 3508, and move for its approval and approve the summary for publication.
Do we have a second? Motion from Councilor Allgood and a second from Councilor McGee for sponsorship of this bill and ordinance. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, voting is open. And all votes are cast, so voting is closed, and that motion does pass unanimously. Thank you very much, Julie, appreciate that. And that moves us on to, these are all checked in, right? On that.
I don't see it on there right now. It's supposed to be on there.
She just said what I'm with.
Did we pull 5 off of here as well? After those, okay.
Okay, sorry, trying to make sure that we're somewhat organized. So now, this is 11A. This was removed from the consent calendar. It was consent calendar item number 12. It's now new business item number 11A. 11A. So consider bill number 25, ordinance number 3509, authorizing the annexation of Autumn Ridge East subdivision into the Caldwell Municipal Irrigation District with a request to move for passage by title only. Is that correct?
I think it is, Mr. Mayor, and I'm kind of looking at Debbie at the same time. I think we've got 11A, 11B, and 11C.
And
Each.
got removed, which was 11B got removed. Okay, so that's A and C.
Okay.
At 11 itself.
We just did 11.
Just to make, it's number 11 now, specifically?
Yeah.
So, those are the two.
It's on this one.
Okay. Are you doing this one, Rob?
Yeah.
Are you, well, I was, or do we need anything? Can we just make a motion on it?
Yeah, it is housekeeping.
Oh yeah, we could do 11A and 11B.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, let me try a motion, and I'll see if I can get it by the city attorney. I move that the council consider bill number 25, ordinance number 3509, and, which is action item 11A, and action item 11C, bill number 27, ordinance number 3511. I move that those be considered together and the vote on those be applied to each action item.
Very good. So we have that motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
So, yes.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
So I live in Adams Ridge subdivision, so should I exclude myself from the vote? Would that be appropriate?
You don't need to. I mean, you can if you feel, but there's no economical impact that you're going to be having from it. So, you know, appreciate that. It's always good to ask the question before rather than after. So, yeah. So we do have a motion. Basically, this motion is to consider 11A and 11C jointly. So not for the approval of them, just so that we can hear them jointly. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that motion passes. So I will read by title only 11A and 11C, and then ask for a sponsorship of both of those at the same time. So, Bill number 25, ordinance number 3509 is an ordinance of the City of Caldwell, Idaho, annexing a portion of property within the corporate city limits into the Caldwell Municipal Irrigation District of the City of Caldwell, Canyon County, Idaho, and changing the boundaries thereof, directing the city engineer to alter the boundary map accordingly, declaring the intent of the city to pool water rights and apply a uniform method of allocating assessments and charges, and providing an effective date. Bill number 27, ordinance number 3511, is an ordinance of the City of Caldwell, Idaho, annexing a portion of property within the corporate city limits into the Caldwell Municipal Irrigation District of the City of Caldwell, Canyon County, Idaho, and changing the boundaries thereof, directing the city engineer to alter the boundary map accordingly, declaring the intent of the city to pool water rights and apply a uniform method of allocating assessments and charges, and providing an effective date. Do we have a sponsor of these bills and ordinances?
Mr. McGee, you started this.
If we stall too long, it wants to give us any time.
I'll try it. Mr. Mayor?
Counselor
So for
Doty.
11A, I'll make the motion that we consider bill number 25, ordinance 3509 for Autumn Ridge East subdivision annexation into the Caldwell Municipal Irrigation District, and 11C, consider bill number 27, ordinance 3511 for Autumn Ridge subdivision Phase 6 into the Caldwell Municipal Irrigation District.
Very well done. Do we have a second? So, there you go. He'll give you the second. So, motion from Counselor Doty, a second from Counselor McGee. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, the voting is open. Again, this is for both of those items. And all votes are cast, so voting is closed, and that passes unanimously. And again, 11B was moved from consent to new, but then it was continued to, I lost all my cheat sheets, I'm not sure where it continued to. Oh, sorry. Yes, June 20th, our next meeting. Okay, then that moves us to consent calendar item number 14. Let's see, no, we just did that one, sorry. Consent calendar item number 5 is new business 11D. Let me get back to number 5. So this is approved resolution accepting a one-year grant from Capital Matrix in the amount of $25,000 to bring a consultant to the economic development team for research of new business ideas, agricultural technology, and feasibility of a Canyon County Ag Tech Center. This is why our wonderful Steve Jenkins has been hanging out with us all night. I thought it was just because he enjoyed our company, and I realized this was the real reason why. So,
I always
Mr.
enjoy your
Jenkins.
company, Mayor and Council. Really appreciate it. I'm usually asking you all for money. In this case, we're accepting money for a grant. So this is a great change of pace. But wanted to talk a little bit briefly about a business incubator and really the sole focus of what we're trying to accomplish within economic development. So, business incubator, this is according to the National Business Incubation Association, a catalyst tool for either regional or national economic development. So we're using this as a mechanism to support entrepreneurs in our community with a specific focus around agriculture, because we're historically known for that in our community. So that is something that we felt would be a profound, make a profound impact in our community as well as in the state of Idaho. So this would be something that it would be based in Caldwell, this facility, will be utilized by individuals across the state. So one of the things I want to mention in this as a key takeaway is that entrepreneurs, they need support to build and promote business activity in the community. Incubators, they become a hub for communication that takes place between the private industries and entrepreneurs that are looking to start businesses. They provide a place to work and also escape the home office, which is important. They re-energize the entrepreneurship community, which is also very important, and it helps keep talent in the region. So not only a focus around College of Idaho and the students that graduate from C of I, but also University of Idaho, Boise State University, College of Western Idaho, Treasure Valley Community College, all these students that may or may not take their ideas to other communities. Our hope is to retain the talent here and to keep those ideas flowing in the Caldwell community. I had a chance in February to visit 2 incubators in the Tampa, Florida area. One is in Lakeland, Florida. It's called Catapult. It's a 501c3 nonprofit. The second is in Bradenton, Florida. It is a 26 West Center, and they're both phenomenal facilities. I have some great notes related to those facilities, but in an effort to keep my comments short, unless there are questions surrounding that, I'll just, hit on some key points. So Catapult, it began with a sponsorship from Publix. Publix is a grocery store out of Lakeland. But they started in a basement in a facility in downtown Lakeland, and largely with entrepreneurs that donated their time to support the incubator space. But they started with 90 members, and they now today have 268 members. So their focus is not as specific as what we're trying to achieve here in Caldwell. They have a commercial kitchen, they have a maker space that features a 3D printer, they have a textile room, they have a welding center. A lot of those facilities are kind of just holistic in that building. Again, our focus is going to be on agribusiness. And then 26 West Center was built around a grant from the Economic Development Administration, and this is at the State College of Florida in Bradenton. And they focus on businesses that are tied to students that are creating ideas around, they have a studio in the facility, they have a large meeting room, and they have small office spaces that can be rented by students that are looking to create new businesses in the community. So I'm going to read really quickly our mission statement for the Canyon County Ag Tech Center that is being proposed here. To be a comprehensive center for agricultural-based innovation, creating opportunity and growing jobs and contributing to the long-term economic prosperity of Caldwell, the Treasure Valley, and the state of Idaho by encouraging and nurturing entrepreneurship within the broader region. So we bring in a consultant via this grant to create an economic asset map that includes all the innovation centers in the area, and also evaluate the resources available here in Caldwell and throughout the region. And then we'd create focus groups with agricultural areas to gauge the needs of our community at large, find ways to incorporate the community voice into this project, which in turn enables buy-in, and then create a feasibility and sustainability study, and then develop a 5-year plan for this facility. And the last thing I'll mention is tied to our efforts to create this facility pre-pandemic. So we started discussions around this concept in 2019. They were, of course, put on hold when the pandemic hit. But before that point, we had partners in place such as Fiber Guide, University of Idaho, College of Idaho, Treasure Valley Community College, Idaho SBDC, New Ventures Labs, Ripley Dorn and Company, Johnson Thermal Systems, CWI, Boise State, and Destination Caldwell. These folks were all at the table talking about this concept at great lengths. And then the new partners that I would suggest moving forward would be DMB Supply, Simplot, Tractor Supply, Crickham Seed Company, Syngenta, Amalgamated Sugar, Zeraco Packaging, Fresca, and then Shearer Incorporated. So beyond that, I'll stop there. The effort, of course, is to attain a consultant that would help us to flesh out these ideas just to make sure it would be viable, not just in Caldwell, but throughout the state of Idaho, and be the asset that we envision it to be in this community.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Jenkins. Any questions for Steve?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilor
Mr.
Stoddard.
Jenkins, the reason I asked this to be moved from the consent calendar is, the question I had is, why couldn't we use the expertise of our University of Idaho folks just down the block here for a lot of this? Because I think Mike Thornton and his group, he's in charge of the extension service in this area. And I know they have a lot of programs through the University of Idaho to do exactly this. And the reason I ask is because I think that's why TVCC failed, is because the board itself didn't have the vision of what the community needed. And that was more on the technical side versus the scholarship side. So have you thought about that instead of spending the $25,000 or?
I have, and this, just to reiterate, this is a grant from Capital Matrix.
Right.
Capital Matrix is a CDC, Community Development Corporation, here in Boise, based in Boise. And their goal is to give back to the communities that they serve in an effort to create economic development and jobs in different communities in the Treasure Valley. And really the conversation with University of Idaho, and you can see that they're original partner in this discussion. Their focus was, they have a food science center here in Caldwell in Chicago. And that food science center, fortunately, is built to capacity. And they have a waiting list, an extensive one. Of course, that's largely tied to the wine industry, which is growing dramatically in Sunny Slope, and we're happy to see that. But our goal would be to not only build upon their efforts to do some wine industry development or entrepreneurship, but we would actually focus on other things tied to agribusiness. So sitting with the University of Idaho and some of their leaders, we talked about how we can expand upon their efforts with a facility that we would concentrate a little more heavily on workshops, on mentorship, and different resources that could help grow entrepreneurs in the community. So things that would be beyond the bandwidth of what they currently provide.
Okay, so will this be a new brick and mortar type of building then? Or something else?
It could be, very well could be. We have actually had discussions with College of Idaho related to their former library space that's on campus that's not being utilized now. Of course, we talked with the University of Idaho, different academic institutions, to discuss if they may have space on campus to allow for something like this to be a part of what they do at their institutions. So it's all, in my opinion, predicated on the grant that could potentially be received through the Economic Development Association. Because it is specific to the agricultural industry, you can throw in the USDA and other national organizations to help to support the efforts here.
Okay, thank you.
Good, excellent. Thank you so much. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Steve. Really appreciate it. So with that, we do have this item. So this is a resolution, again, for the acceptance of this $25,000 grant to research for the Caney County Ag Tech Center. We have a motion for approval.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
So a motion from Councilor McGee and a second from Councilor Stodic for approval of this resolution. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, with that, the voting is open. And voting is closed, and that passes unanimously. And since Steve is here, I want to just give a huge shout out to Mr. Jenkins. And I know I say this about some other positions, about many positions, but we have the best economic development director in the state, not the entire Northwest. The magic that that man does is just phenomenal. He knows his stuff so well, researches, follows up. You couldn't ask for a better economic development director. And that comes as I've been able to go out and meet with many of these, major corporations and developers that are looking to come to Idaho. And where do they want to go? They want to come to Caldwell, and a big reason is because of Mr. Jenkins. And they tell me that they work with many, and there's none better. And so I just want to make sure that he knows how much I appreciate him and the entire city. I appreciate what he does and his efforts. So thank you, Steve, for all you do. You are terrific. So don't you go anywhere. So he's already promised me he's going to stick around. But he's awesome. Okay, that moves us into consider acceptance of the finance report. Mr. Williams.
Mayor, I move that accounts payable in the amount of $6,150,358.66, represented by check numbers 169881 through 170304, and payroll for the amount of $1,140,008.18, represented by check numbers 38634 through 39696, and direct deposits be accepted, payments approved, vouchers filed in the office of the city clerk.
And thank you. Do you have a second? So a motion from Councilor Williams and a second from Councilor McGee for acceptance of the finance report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. So, council reports. Councilor McGee, let's start down there with you. He's already going to sleep, so.
He was halfway out. He was.
I was packing up my stuff, Mayor. I don't have a report for tonight.
Very good, thank you. See, he starts us off right every time. We should always start with Councilor McGee. Councilor Ogden.
I'm gonna ruin it, I'm sorry. First of all, going back to Mr. Jenkins, I thought he was just gonna come up here and say, my name is Stephen Jenkins and I approve this bill. And it'd be done, it'll probably happen that way, but, anyway, couple things. Optimus had their annual golf tournament, junior golf tournament out at Purple Sage. I don't get out there much, I don't golf. Wow, that place is amazing. I mean, it is, they are doing such a good job out there. I was given a job appropriate to my skill set, which was water boy. But no, those guys are doing such a good job out there. And then last thing, the thing that's actually important, Councilor Register was talking about what we built, what we got coming, and she's kind of like a mind reader, I guess. I had it on my list to send you an email about, it's really, I feel it's really important coming into this budget session. We have literally thousands of doors to go up of multifamily, single family, all this, over the next 4 to 6 years that are being phased out. They're being phased, or they're already approved. And it would be so helpful to know just exactly how much we have on the books right now when we go into budget season, how many more cops, how many more firefighters. I mean, what do we got that we need to be putting down on paper right now before we approve anything else? I mean, we need to know, are we looking at 30,000 more population in the next 6 years? I mean, what are we, based on the numbers that we've already approved for the past, 3 years, where are we? And it would be so helpful for budget hearings to know kind of what we have waiting for us. Can you cause that to happen?
Yeah, and I gotta give a shout out to Council Register, because she already has. So I know she sent, that request, and I appreciated that, sending that to me, so I was able to forward that on to staff to start Council, or Director Collins, not Robbins, as was stated many times tonight, is Collins. So anyway, so that ball started to get rolling. I appreciate Council Register giving the push on that. So they are actually in process of doing that right now. And so I know she said it'd be another month or two, which would be perfect timing for our budget workshops, which are starting in about a month and a half. So that is in process. And again, thank you, Council Register, for asking for that, because that'll be good information to have. And so, I know that Chief Ingram would appreciate that too, and kind of working on that and getting them more help, as well as the fire department, fire chief. So it is in process, so.
Thank you.
Yep. Councilor Williams.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Just some really good news recently in the city of Caldwell. Brad and I were talking about, when we started on this end, and we were talking about this just before, the meeting. Salvador Alamia from Amano is in the news, getting national recognition and contending for a top prize. He's one of the top 2 contenders for that as a chef. That's Caldwell, Idaho, folks. And I couldn't be prouder of our city. Also, you know what, I'll leave the second one for you,
Go
Brad.
ahead.
How about that?
I'll just second what you're saying, then we can move on.
Okay, Katie Fuller and K&S Construction was in the news recently. I don't know if you caught that, but she was driving by an elderly neighbor who had graffiti on her fence, and she pulled over and volunteered her construction crew to clean up the fence and repaint it. And this is just good news. This is really good things going on. And then just finally, another thing I think is great news is that walk bridge across Indian Creek is done. So both of them now, I think with the help of Farmway Village, right, have been reconstructed for us, and things are looking great. Things are going good in the city of Caldwell. It's a great day to be in the city of Caldwell, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, it is. And as great a chef as Sal is over at Amanos, he's an even better person. I mean, that's what makes it so great. It's just the character of those people too. Not just great at what they do, but just great people. So, Councilor Doty.
What Councilor Williams said.
You're wanting to get out of here, aren't you?
No, I had it right here. It's right here.
Almost to the letter. So, Councilor Stoddard.
Well, since I left the council the first time, I didn't realize until now that there's been a lot of problems over at the Caldwell Veterans Center on who should be operating that thing, and not enough volunteers, and the same old 1, 2, 3. Sometimes you hear those organizations. So I've interviewed all the groups involved. Not all. I've got one more to go on Friday, and then I hope to come up with a plan to make sure that those folks can work together, because now there's some threats that some might leave, and if that's the case, then that facility probably is going to be closed down in the near future, and we don't want that to happen. And then talking about budgeting too, I'll be recommending maybe a support amount too for that group, just like the county does right now for them. So, to keep up with, the normal operational stuff, the utilities and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I hope to get that together, maybe put it to bed here in the next 2 months, and we'll get back on track with that thing. So that's all I have.
Yeah, no, that'd be great, because that is an asset. It really is. That building is what they done with that. It'd be devastating to lose that. So, yeah. Councilor Register.
I have 2 things. Councilor Doty and I were able to go to the Law Enforcement Memorial, where Chief Ingram was one of the keynote speakers. I don't know if anybody else was there, because we got there kind of early, so I don't know. Were you there, standing kind of in the back? I thought I saw you. Which I thought was really neat, for our chief to be included in that, and he brought along, what was her name again? Angie Mendoza, who is engaged to the officer at LAPD. You're going to have to, sorry. Yeah. So she was able to come and speak, and it was very impactful, and it was just very professionally done, I thought. So thank you for that. And the only other thing I was going to say is kind of with what Councilor Allgood already said was, I think that we can all agree that, there's growth in Caldwell, but it's about responsible growth. And if we don't have all the information, I think it's irresponsible for us to continue to, kind of keep going without having the whole packet. So I'm really looking forward to that, and, at least we can see where we're at with it, so.
Very good, excellent, thank you so much. Yes.
Raylan
Councilor.
stayed here the entire time and didn't get to speak, so I just wanna.
You wanna give her some time?
Some opportunity if she wants to speak. He's good, okay, just making sure.
Yeah.
She's hidden.
Yeah, so Raylan is doing awesome, so really appreciate all she's doing for us too. It's just been such a breath of fresh air, and yeah, just excited for the budget workshops coming up, so those are coming, so be prepared for that. I don't think there's really gonna be anything that's a surprise to anybody. So maybe just real quick, swimming pools, we've had some discussions on that, so that'll be coming for your discussion on that, but I know that there's a lot of concern out there, you hear it all the time. So we do take that seriously and are looking into that, and what can we do appropriately, the proper steps on that. So we'll be coming during those budget workshops to get council's opinion and see if you agree or want to go in a different direction. So if you do have people ask you about that, let them know that we hear them and take it serious, and we will be having some really good in-depth discussion on that. So, yeah, just appreciate everyone, and with that, that's all I have to say. So I stand for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We are adjourned.